Welcome for the first time, the author of this book that I have right here in front of me, Grateful American, A Journey from Self to Self-Service, that is going to be ready where all books are sold widely. Next Tuesday, February 12th, the Academy Award nominated, Emmy Award winning actor Gary Sinise. How are you, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
What a pleasure to have you right here.
Thank you.
You bet. Why write this book? Where did this book come from, Gary?
Well, I've been around, done a few things, and I was encouraged to think about it as time went on. I've been doing a lot of work for our military and our veterans community, our first responders. I've been overseas. I've been all around. Done a lot of that. Created a foundation and all of that. So I thought we'd track a little of the journey from self to service. It's not journey from selfish to service. It's just from a focus, singular focus on what I was doing in my career and that kind of thing, to a broader focus of service to others. And it's pretty interesting journey, I think. You know, kind of bumbled along for a while, and then all of a sudden things started to happen.
So I know many folks might just by hearing your voice, recognize your voice from the U.S. Army commercials for sure, as well as obviously from your acting career, Forrest Gump, playing the famed Lieutenant Dan character. Is that where your connection with armed forces and having you as an individual and actor connected to it, is that where that comes from?
Well, that's part of it. But I have a lot of military in my family, so on both my side of the family and my wife's side of the family. So it kind of starts there. And then years ago, I got very involved with Vietnam veterans groups in Chicago. I have a theater company that I talk about in the book that I started with my pals called Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago.
Sure.
And when I was working there back in the late 70s, early 80s, I got very involved with some local Vietnam veterans groups, started supporting them in different ways, helped create a Veterans Memorial in Lansing, Illinois. We started some programming at Steppenwolf focused on supporting veterans. And that was a full 10, 12 years before I actually played Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump. So by the time I had the audition opportunity,
Sure.
When that came along, I was kind of tuned in to supporting veterans already, and very much wanted to play that part, and was lucky to get it.
No kidding.
Yeah.
because of your connection already to the military. That's what led you wanting to take the role of Lieutenant Dan?
To Vietnam veterans,
Sure.
Particularly. Mm-hmm. I have Vietnam veterans of my family on my wife's side of the family. Her two brothers, her sister's husband. Mm-hmm. I'd been working with Vietnam veterans, supporting them in different ways. You know, they kind of got crapped on when they came home from war. It was a terrible time in our history, very divided nation, and the service members kind of fell through the cracks, and bad things happened. And so I just started trying to give back to them in different ways. And so when this opportunity came along in the mid-'90s to audition for this guy, and he's a wounded veteran.
That's right.
I very much wanted to play it. I was lucky to get the part, and never imagined that it would play a greater role in my life than just a movie part, but it actually did.
Yeah, and I want to dig in a little bit into that a little bit more. Gary Sinise here on the Rich Eisen Show. You played a character in Lieutenant Dan, not just wounded physically, but mentally, and we're seeing that so much with military members that are coming home from theaters, from serving overseas. We have a ton of veterans who listen and take in this show, and that was so moving in that film, Gary, that the magic legs is what obviously Forrest Gump called your legs, but you were upset that he actually saved you because your character was supposed to die on the field of battle like everybody before him. I'm wondering if that's what spoke to you when you got the script as well.
Part of it. I mean, it was the structure of the character in the movie. He's only in the movie about 20 minutes. I mean, if you look at it, there's little sections of him, 20, 25 minutes worth. But it was a great story because in the end, a guy who's going through a lot of post-traumatic stress, he's dealing with his own guilt from walking his platoon into an ambush, getting a lot of them wounded or killed. He's blown up himself. He just didn't want to survive that. He's got a lot of survivor's guilt there because of it, and that's a typical, understandable thing for many warriors coming home from war. But the good thing about that story, and we hadn't seen that prior to Forrest Gump, really, in a movie about Vietnam or a Vietnam veteran, was that he's okay in the end. He's standing up again. He's on legs. He's clean cut. He's rich. He's made a lot of money in the shrimping business. You know, he's you know, they did well. He invested in Apple, and he made a lot of money. And that was a story about a Vietnam veteran that we just hadn't seen. Somebody who could come back from war, go through the understandable anguish and despair and all the things that he was dealing with, but in the end, come around and do okay. That's the story that we want for every single veteran coming home from war, is that they're able to push through their experiences in war and move on with it. And that's what I'm just trying to help folks do.
One of the producers of Forrest Gump owns the New York Giants, and Steve Tisch, and he's the only guy to have an Oscar and a Lombardi Trophy on planet Earth, which is something he's very, very pleased about.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
he doesn't have an Emmy though, or a Grammy.
No, not yet. He's working on an EGOT as well, or I don't know how you work it would be like the SBGOT, you know, with a Super Bowl trophy in there or something like that. So, do you have any specific? Are you a Bears fan? You mentioned you're from Chicago. Is that?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Like, what is how deep is your love for Chicago sports?
You know, my team in Chicago is the Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up watching the Cubs. You know, I'm a Bear fan and everything, but I'm really a big baseball fan. So love the Chicago Cubs. Have since I was 5 years old. Talk about it in my book a little bit.
Who was your guy? Was it
what?
Who was your guy?
Ron Santo was my guy. Well, I was I was a big fan. We went into the playoffs in 1969, so I remember that team very specifically. And I wanted to be a third baseman, and Ron Santo was my guy. And I get to meet him later on and spend some time up in the booth with him and that kind of thing as time went on. Great team there. I have great memories of that, and I have great memories of sitting in front of a black and white television, 5 years old, watching the Cubs on WGN in Chicago. And I lived on the south side where the White Sox are from.
Uh-huh.
So, but I'm a Cub fan, and it's simply because I watched them on television on WGN from the time I was five years old.
So I assume you've crossed paths with Harry Caray at some point. Huh?
Oh, sure, yeah, way back when.
Way back when. Sure, yeah. I know you could. I met Harry once when I went to Northwestern in graduate school.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I went to and I covered as a student, I covered the announcement, I think, of Jim Riggleman was the newly named manager.
Yo.
And it was at 10 in the morning was the press conference, and I went to Wrigley Field at 10 in the morning, and who was there? Just me and him in the room. But Harry Caray.
Oh, no kidding.
And he was several sheets to the window ready. I think it was a Bloody Mary, and that Mary, it was bloody. Oh, yeah.
Holy cow.
Holy cow! Have you done the Take Me Out to the Ball Game?
Oh,
well?
sure, many times.
How'd that go for you?
It's pretty great. It's pretty great to do it. I just try to do it like Harry, when I'm there. Yeah.
So you get into it.
Oh yeah. There's plenty of videos out there.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it a lot doing it. I was going to do it last year, but some things came up and I couldn't get there. But usually I'm there. I'll go there at least once a year.
And what did it mean to you to see them finally win it? What did it mean to you to see them finally?
Oh my gosh, are you kidding? I mean, for all of us who grew up Cub fans, that was just the greatest night of all time.
Where'd you take it in? Were you there?
At home. No, I couldn't be there. I watched it at home. Amazing. Yeah.
Gary Sinise here on the Rich Eisen Show, and working with Tom Hanks. You got a good Tom Hanks story for me here? Because you worked in 3 of them with him, right?
Oh yeah.
Apollo.
Oh no, Tom's a great guy. We did 3 movies together in the '90s: Forrest Gump, Apollo 13, and The Green Mile. Green Mile, just a little part, but I got to work on that for a couple of days. And Apollo 13 was tremendous. We got to do all kinds of cool things. We went up in the KC-135 training plane, which is. It's a tanker, a KC-135 tanker. They call it the Vomit Comet, and they've got it all carved out inside. There's only a few seats in the back. Everything's padded, and they drop you into zero gravity for about 25 seconds, and we got to float around in there together.
Well, so who handled it the best?
Well, why don't we just say who handled it
The worst.
the worst?
Okay, so who handled it the worst? You?
That was me. Yeah. There's a funny picture in the book where you see when you go up, you get flight suits, and you have pockets here, one pocket here, and one pocket here, and they'll give you 2 little plastic bags, just in case you need them. And there's only one guy who comes back with 1 plastic bag, and that was me.
That would be you, and you. Amazing. Yeah, I'm looking at some of these photographs there. There you are as Truman, which is obviously...
You see all of us there. We all have 2 plastic bags in our pocket there.
Yeah, the top right there.
And then right underneath, I'm coming down the stairs after the plane lands, and I've got 1 missing.
Fantastic. And there you are as Truman as well. You won your Emmy Award for that, and obviously so many other great roles. You won a Golden Globe for Truman. You won your Emmy for George Wallace, as a matter of fact. My bad on all that. And I see a photograph of you sitting next to W. I see you sitting next to the President of the United States.
That was for a nonprofit that I started called with Laura Hillenbrand, who wrote Seabiscuit and the book Unbroken. And we started a program called Operation Iraqi Children, which was a school supply program. We started shipping school supplies over to the troops during the Iraq War, and they would take them out and give them to the kids. I write about it in the book. And a bunch of nonprofits that were supporting the military and veterans got invited to the White House that day for a meeting to talk about how we could promote that we were supporting our veterans. And so there were lots of nonprofits there. That I'm just one of them there.
Well, I'm pleased to have you here. Again, the book, and you said you're just about to start on a book tour for this, and we're your first up.
Yeah, the book comes out February 12th, and I start on a tour on the 10th.
Grateful American, a journey from self to service, and on the back you got some testimonials from Tom Hanks, Joe Mantegna. You probably met him in Chicago.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're old friends.
Oh, yeah. He goes way back there. And Clint Eastwood on the back as well. Tom Dreesen. I mean, that is another. I mean, you got a lot of Chicago connections right here. Congratulations on this book, and I'm a big fan of your work. Thanks for coming in here.
Thanks so much.
You bet. Gary Sinise, at Gary Sinise on Twitter, Gary Sinise Official on Instagram. Grateful American, a journey from self to service by Gary Sinise. Available where all books are sold on February 12th.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.